This project uses a mini cell holder and PCB LEDs to create a discrete circuit that goes along the bottom of the hemline on the t-shirt. The light shines through the fabric and in the t-shirt that you can see here, there's actually a lace overlay on the top, so the light shines through both of the layers, creating a nice soft feminine look. So if we just look at the hemline a bit closer, here we can see the LEDs shining through this lace overlay that we've got on the t-shirt that I've used here. So the LEDs are shining through the t-shirt fabric that's underneath, and if we just lift that up you can see that's where the circuit is. So the circuit sits along the hemline, so the turned up hem. So you could do this project using any t-shirt, whether it's a lady's t-shirt, a man's or a child's, as long as it's got a hem that's wide enough for the LEDs to sit underneath. They sit underneath this part of the hem, which means that you won't need to see any stitching on the right side, so that's quite important. Here you can see the final LED, and that it's been attached to two poppers just here. So we have the negative side of the LED going to this popper and the positive one going to this one. And that's going to match up with two poppers that are stitched onto the cell holder. So there's a piece of fabric sandwiched in between the popper and the cell holder to enable them to hold together. And when I match up this popper that's attached to the negative side of the cell holder and the popper on the negative side of the LED and the positive on the cell holder to the positive on the LEDs, it switches the LEDs on. And again, if I take that off, it becomes a removable switch. That does mean that you can take this off and the garment can be washed. You can wash this garment on a low temperature. You can't iron it or put it into a tumble dryer, and I would suggest that if you are going to put it onto a product that you want to watch, you do a test circuit of your own. Quite important that you do make sure you take away the cell holder because that can't be washed. The things you'll need for this project are, first of all, your top, just bearing in mind that it needs to have around a 2 centimetre hem on it. You will need a mini cell holder like this one here, so it's nice and small and discreet, and a cell to go in there. You'll also need 6 PCB LEDs. So you can see with these they've got the LED actually attached to the surface, which makes them nice and easy to use. So I've got 6 of those. We will need 2 poppers, so just these are just attached to a piece of card, just so that I don't lose them because they're quite small, and a piece of, well, I've got felt in this case, but it could be any fabric that doesn't fray, and just needs to be something that's just slightly bigger than the cell holder, because the cell holder is going to sit on top of that. We'll need our conductive thread, as well as just some ordinary thread, because on the mini cell holder we've got a stabilising hole here that we'll sew down using the ordinary thread rather than the conductive thread, because it's not part of the circuit. The first step is to mark the position of the LEDs where you want them to go. Here I've used a pen that fades away over about 48 hours. You can also get pens that wash away when you put a little bit of water on the top. Don't use an ordinary pen or pencil on your fabric, because that can be very difficult to remove. You can also use something like a tailor's chalk. I'm stitching my first LED into position, just using some tight oversewing stitches. So I've started off with the negative side here. Just notice I'm making it so that my stitches don't go through to the right side of the fabric. So I'm just picking up stitches from the inside of this hem here. Once I've completed doing the oversewing stitches, I'm then going to just slide my needle along the hem, again making sure I don't go through the fabric on the right side. Now here I've got some overlocking stitches, so I can just take my thread through those, but if you haven't got any overlocking stitches, you're just going through one of the layers, the top, this inside layer. You can see I'm just putting it apart there, so it's just this layer on the inside that we're going through. And then we're going to stitch our second LED, and our third one, our fourth one, and so on, using oversewing stitches, just like we did on this first one here. Here we have the LEDs sewn into position, so you can see each of the negatives is joined up with the conductive thread. And then at the end I've taken the final LED goes to the popper, which has been sewn down using the oversewn stitches in the same way that I've sewn the LEDs down. I have used the conductive thread to sew all of the popper down, but you only actually need to attach it to one of the holes on the popper. So if you're running out of thread, you can just use ordinary thread for the remaining holes in the popper. And you can see there's nothing on the right side, so we can't see any of the stitches on the right side of the t-shirt. I've now completed this part of the circuit by stitching down the positive side, so the positive side's over here, taking it to another side of the popper just along the top here. So this is the bit that can be washed, hand washed in cold water. I'm going to attach the popper onto the negative side of the cell holder. Just check that you have the right side of popper so that it will go into the hole here to close it. Just making sure you haven't got the two of the same sides. So what's going to happen is that the popper is going to sit on the reverse side of the felt fabric. So it's just going to sit and be stitched through the layers of fabric so the popper sits on the back. So you can see that the popper is held in position just there. So you can sort of see the fabric sandwiched between the two layers, and the little oversewn stitches that's holding the popper and the cell holder together. I'm just going to stitch the remaining sides of the popper. I'm going to use my conductive thread just to carry it on, but I could use just an ordinary sewing thread because these stitches here are just to stabilise the popper as opposed to being part of the circuit. Now I've completed the switch, so I've got my negative and my positive side of my cell holder attached to my two poppers. Just notice that the two other holes are just for stabilising, so they've just been stitched down to the backing fabric with some ordinary sewing thread. I can then pop my cell into my cell holder and I can then join the negative side of my circuit, the positive, and my LEDs light up.